You're watching Portfolio Makeover, a new original series from ETF Guide TV. I'm Ron DeLegge. Great to see you. And today we're going to examine a rollover IRA for Terry in Winter Park, Florida. This is a $187,000 portfolio. And I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and what I think can be improved. So without further ado, let's introduce Terry to our audience members. And before I do that, I just want to mention that I think it's very, Terry deserves to be congratulated for allowing us to examine her investments on today's program. It takes real honesty and courage to do that. And of course, an open mind. And I think, Terry, I know you're watching, but after you review today's episode, I think you're going to feel a lot better about your investment portfolio. You're going to have a little bit more confidence. And I think the ideas that we're going to share with you are going to help you to improve your investment portfolio and just your whole process. So let's take a look at this portfolio. Well, actually, before we do that, let me give you some background on Terry. And I think this is very important because, you know, we always want to make sure that the investment portfolios that we're building and managing for ourselves align and match our personal circumstances as well as our financial needs. And that's very important to make sure that it's congruent. So here's some background on Terry. She's 49. She's single. She's a pharmacist. She has this rollover IRA that she's self-managing, and she considers herself a moderate risk taker. Some other details about her. She actively participates in a 401k plan at work. That 401k plan has dollar for dollar matching, and she contributes up to that 5% limit. Does a little bit more than that, but keep in mind, for those of us that have a 401k plan with a match, we always want to take advantage of that. That's free money. So you always want to contribute at a minimum up to that match. She also has some other money that we're not going to look at today, but I just put this in here to give you some context about her situation. She's got $73,000 in a bank CD and a Schwab brokerage account. She has no Roth IRA or Roth 401k. And then thankfully, she's got no health problems. She's in good shape, and both of her parents are still alive. And I always like to ask those questions. Just it gives us understanding of longevity. And certainly if your parents are still alive, that's a good sign and probably indicative of what your longevity may be. And certainly that comes into play when we discuss things like saving and investing for retirement. So let's give you some other details about Terry, specifically her concerns. She, like a lot of us, wants to avoid making the wrong investment choices. She's worried about some hidden risks that could maybe upend her saving and her plan for retirement. And also she wants to cut her taxes. She feels like she's paying too much. And I think these are all real, genuine concerns that we can all identify with. Now, in terms of the actual portfolio, let's take a look at what she's got. She's got just over $187,000, and she's got one mutual fund. That's the Freedom 2030 Fund, FFFEX. Boy, that's a lot of Fs. Then she's got 3 individual stocks. These are some well-known ticker symbols: Apple, Bank of America, and then Robinhood. And then again, all these investments are held inside of a self-directed rollover IRA. So what that means is that this money previously was held at a workplace retirement plan. And so she rolled that money over into a rollover IRA, and that's what we see here. So let's talk about Terry's portfolio in terms of the categories, right? The major points. So the cost of the portfolio, the performance, the taxes, the diversification, the risk. I mean, these are the big league things that I always look for when breaking down and analyzing an investment portfolio. So let's spin the wheel to see which category we're going to begin with for analyzing Terry's portfolio. Here we go. All right, so we're going to start with diversification. Terry's $187,000 portfolio has 82% of it in that Freedom 2030 fund. This, by the way, is a target retirement date portfolio. So we'll get to that in a second, but that's where the bulk of this money is invested. She's got the rest spread across 3 stocks: Apple, Bank of America, and then Robinhood Markets. And then as far as the overall asset class breakdown, 70-30, with the majority allocated to stocks, the rest to bonds. Whenever we talk about diversification, I think of the Sir John Templeton, investing great, who said that the only people that should not diversify are those who are 100% right all the time. So for the rest of us who aren't right 100% of the time, we diversify. That means we spread our money across the major asset classes. That's the high level. And so when I think of diversification, I think about the major asset classes: stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities. What's Terry missing? Well, clearly she misses real estate and commodities. Those are 2 major asset classes. And commodities is sort of that oddball asset class that a lot of people don't understand. I think it's pretty easy to understand. I mean, we drink coffee, we eat scrambled eggs, we fill up our cars with gasoline, and presumably we also, if we don't use a gas-powered car, we charge our cars with electric vehicle chargers. And what do you think is behind all of that? That's what? Industrial metals, right? Like lithium, and you've got nickel. So these are commodities, and commodities are a major asset class. And so these are, again, some areas that she misses. So you could say her portfolio is under-diversified when it lacks exposure to the major asset classes. Let's move on to cost. What does this portfolio cost? Well, she's got almost 85% of it allocated to the Freedom 2030 fund. This mutual fund charges 66 basis points annually. That works out to just over $1,000 a year and change that she's paying to Fidelity to have that money managed. She has no margin borrowing or brokerage commissions in this account. So there's no other hidden fees or added costs that we have in this rollover IRA. In terms of performance, Terry's portfolio over the past year declined just a nudge over 19% versus a 13.4% decline for a matching benchmark that aligns with her asset mix. That benchmark, in case you're wondering, I know the engineers, they're all always wondering, well, what's that benchmark? What's in it? Well, I like to use index ETFs that are broadly diversified, that are representative of a person's asset mix, so that we're comparing apples to apples. As far as specific holdings, Hood was her worst holding. It lost over half its value over the past year. And then her biggest holding lost almost 17% in value. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of Portfolio Makeover. What does Ron like about Terry's portfolio? Well, first of all, Terry's a good saver. She's 49 years old. Her discipline clearly shows. Keep in mind the median size balance for retirement plan savers in Terry's age group is $128,000. That's the median. And Terry has almost $200,000. So she's way above that threshold, which is commendable. So keep up the discipline saving. That's fantastic. Also, you'll notice Terry's portfolio is very simple to understand. There's not a lot of moving parts. It's not complicated. And I think from that perspective, that straightforward design makes it a lot easier to manage. So that's the good. Well, what is the bad? What don't I like about Terry's portfolio? Well, that 2030 fund, where Terry has most of her rollover IRA parked, in my view, it oversimplifies the asset allocation process by depersonalizing Terry's asset mix with a one-size-fits-all approach. And that's one of the reasons why I do not like target date funds. In fact, I don't think the Department of Labor should be making them the default choice. I know the bureaucrats running the DOL aren't going to like this, but I don't care. They should not be default investment choices because, in my view, the default choice should always be customized asset mix that specifically matches a person. It should be always custom tailored. That should be the go-to choice. If that's not available, then you go to something like a target date fund. But the customized asset mix should be, in my view, the default choice. And, in Terry's case, you'll notice that this is a rollover IRA. It's one thing to be stuck in target date funds because your workplace 401k menu is limited. But in her case, that's not the situation. Terry has complete freedom to invest anywhere she wants. She has flexibility to invest in much better choices. And moreover, I think she can personalize that portfolio, this rollover IRA, with an asset mix that takes into account her unique needs. And I would take that approach any day over some generic one-size-fits-all target date fund. Also, the under-diversification and lack of a written investment policy statement. These are other problems that I have with Terry's portfolio. All investors should have a written investment policy statement that dictates what the asset allocation should be, what the objective is, all those important details. That governs. That's like your written roadmap for governing how that investment portfolio is to be managed. So whether you're self-managing or whether you have a financial advisor helping you, you should always have a written investment policy statement. So what would I do with Terry's portfolio? How do we make this portfolio over? Because that's the name of this show. What would Ron do? Well, here's what I would do if this was my money. First of all, I'd add major missing asset classes to this portfolio, get it fully diversified. We identified commodities and real estate as missing. There, by the way, are ETFs that do a good job, Terry, that are representative, broad diversifiers that hit these major asset classes at a very affordable cost. So that is something that you can easily do. Also, adding a written investment policy statement, which I mentioned earlier. This will help you to just stay on track and be disciplined with your asset mix as well as your regimen for reaching your retirement goals. And then also, I'd immediately cut the investment cost of this portfolio. I think you can, at least at a very minimum, reduce the cost of this portfolio by 50-60%. That's easily achievable. So that's what I would immediately do if it were my money. And then another point, which we didn't really get into on this show, but I think you're going to hear this more and more on Portfolio Makeover, is you'll notice that there's 3 places where all investors can keep their money from a tax perspective. You've got your taxable bucket, your tax-deferred bucket, and then your tax-free bucket. So forget about what the investments are actually doing for a second. I know we tend to focus on, well, is it the best investment? Is it the one that's got the highest, dividend incomes or the most stable income or the highest growth potential? Forget about all that for a second. Let's just talk about where those investments are being held. And so those 3 buckets, taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free, you'll notice that Terry's got all of her money in the taxable bucket and the tax-deferred bucket, but nothing in the tax-free bucket. So we need to start getting money into the tax-free zone, right? Because higher tax rates are coming. And so how do I shelter myself from higher tax rates in the future? They're going to be higher in retirement. I know that the conventional thinking is, well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not going to be true for millions and millions of Americans. In fact, I will make the argument that tax rates are going to be higher in retirement, and they're not going to be higher because you're making more money. They're going to be higher because the U.S. government's forced to increase tax rates to pay for all this overspending that they're constantly doing. The overspending, the deficit spending, all of that has to be funded somehow. They can't borrow more money. They can't print more money. They're going to have to raise revenue. How do you do that? Higher tax rates. So to shelter yourself from that, we shift money into the tax-free bucket. In Terry's case, she's participating in a 401k plan, a traditional 401k plan. She's got to talk to her HR department, see if they offer a Roth 401k plan. And then if they do, then she can start making contributions. By the way, Roth 401k plans are becoming more commonplace. So talk to your HR department if you're in a 401k plan and see if it's available and start contributing to that. Also, I would cap my traditional 401k contributions to the company match, and all the money over and above that match, I would systematically save and invest in the Roth 401k if it's available. And like I said, it is becoming more commonplace in retirement plans. And by the way, they just increased the contribution limits with the Secure 2.0 Act, so you can stash away even more money. And I think that's a great thing. So I think this portfolio makeover has a real promise for Terry. I think these are the things that Terry can do to improve her situation. And again, I approach this from, if this was my money, what I would do with it. So thank you so much, Terry, for sharing your portfolio details with us. I mean, this was a fantastic exercise. And please, please, please let me know. Let me know how you're coming along with your investments. I want to hear from you. I want to see if you're reaching your goals, and I want to see what improvements you've made with your investments. So what about you? What are your investment portfolio strengths and weaknesses, and how can it be improved? Well, with the start of a brand new year, no better time than now to find out. So you can get in touch with me. Just go to portfolioreportcard.com. I'll give you a one-page diagnosis of your investment positives and negatives. Plus, we just might see you on the next episode of Portfolio Makeover. One final reminder, hit the description section below for my upcoming webinar, The Changing World of Retirement Planning in 2023. Attendance is free, but registration is required and seating is limited. So be sure to get in early. All attendees will also get my new ebook titled 60 Smart Ways to Retire Better. So just hit that link below in the description section. Do not miss it. It's a must attend for anyone that is nearing retirement, planning for retirement, or already retired. Well, that does it for our very first episode of Portfolio Makeover. Drop me your thoughts in the comment section below. I want to hear from you. How did you enjoy the show? I'm Ron DeLegge. See you on the next episode of Portfolio Makeover.